Good to be back.
Pleasure. God bless.
Well, I was kind of scrambling around to get caught to this because every time I come on with Julie on Wednesdays, I get just floods from generals giving real intel to her spiritual intel. And one of the main things she was talking about is what I'm sure we're going to be talking about today, silver and gold in this financial collapse. And they also said, watch Japan very carefully.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead, Andrew.
one of the things that I've seen happen here in the last couple of weeks is that July 1st is when Basel, as part of Basel III, that gold is being upgraded to a Tier 1 asset. And what that means is that when the banks have to report what they have in reserves, that gold has only been counted at 50% of the market value. This will be the first time that gold's ever been calculated as the 100% market value, which means that gold is finally getting the respect that it deserves in these modern times as far as it being a currency.
Let me just, I'm going to read the overview of Basel III because Clay keeps telling me this, keep an eye on this. And I think we talked about it 8 months ago, and then I just forgot about it. But Basel III is a global regulatory framework for banks designated to strengthen financial stability following the global financial crisis. It sets minimal capital and liquidity requirements for banks, aiming to improve the resilience to shocks and promote market discipline. Specifically, introduce stricter capital requirements, including a leverage ratio and liquidity coverage ratio, as well as revised risk-weighted asset calculations. So that is official Basel III overview. And that's, as Andrew said, that's going into effect July 1st.
Yeah, basically, I'm just kind of trying to pull something up here, but when we go back and we listen to the time calculation, everything we've been talking about, we've always had, remember, the year 248 ends on the 3rd of July, and the 4th of July was the key calculated time point where everything, it was related to specifically the rebirthing of America. So 4th of July is a huge, huge biblical time point relative to the covenant the United States has with God. So now that we have overturned Roe v. Wade, we've always said, that event itself is now God is with us, so who can stand against us? So we're at a very important point where God's about to intervene, because bottom line is, as much as we want all these things to happen, it's so important that Pastor Dave has Julie Green on and prophets on his show. Why? Because this is a move of God that's about to happen. When you read Numbers 14:21, my glory shall fill the earth. It's not Trump's glory. Okay, Trump's, everyone's giving Trump glory right now, but no man's going to get the glory for what's about to happen. We're stepping into a move of God, and again, this is a plan that Satan's had for thousands of years. What's the very simple agenda? To bring down the United States as a world superpower and have China rise to power as the world superpower. That's the long-term goal. If you want, I've done the homework on it, and people are, well, please go do your homework. Check China's long-term plan. What is it? To become the world superpower by the year 2049. And they know they can't capture the United States with a military battle, so what they do is they come in through the back door with bribes, payoffs, everything we've been watching going on right now. This is all a long-term plan of China, but ultimately, when you look at the BRICS, right, what does the C in BRICS stand for? China, Brazil, Russia, India, China. And so their ultimate goal here is to control humanity. And this BRICS system that we've all been talking about, understand, the BRICS will fall. Okay, that's prophecy. So the BRICS system is a parallel system to the US dollar. In other words, it's a competitor too. So when the BRICS system goes live, we've talked about Operation Sandman. Yeah. Operation Sandman is to take down the dollar as the world reserve currency. When that event happens, the only other way to transact for a short window is going to be BRICS, okay? But that's going to be horrible because, as we've said, most of the countries with BRICS are non-Christian nations. So in other words, you've got, so for hundreds of years now, we've had a Christian nation. America has taken the Bible around the world, the name of Jesus globally. We brought military protection globally. So that's the point. We're a covenant nation under God, and God has been protecting the earth. Could you imagine China as the world world superpower? Just stop and think about that for a minute. If China were to be the world superpower, first off, what is going on there right now? Because it's going to be just magnitudes greater than that. They've got a surveillance system all around all the big cities, and if you do something, if you post something which is against the government, if you say something wrong, anything, it's called a social credit scoring system, okay? That is a communist system. And the BRICS system will tie directly in with that. And so they would basically be controlling anything and everything people say. And if you don't say something correctly, they turn you off. I'm going to repeat that. They turn you off. All of your banking, all of your data, they just turn you off. So it's a full-on control system. So should China, again, that's their long-term, well, not going to happen, okay? Because doesn't matter what their plan is, it's what God's plan is. God wrote the end from the beginning. But the point is that, we've now in the past 4 years talk about being exposed to the truth of what is really going on behind the scenes. And, thank God, that God has sent his prophets to speak, and he's showing us things that are about to manifest here. But the glory's going to come upon the earth. And as Pastor Dave and I spoke, when I was up in Texas, this is a historic time point. When that glory comes upon the earth, what it's going to be Billy Graham 2.0. When what does that mean? It means not only will there be revivals, it'll be revivals like no other, because that's the financial event that's coming is going to bring the greatest revival in human history, coupled with signs, miracles, and wonders. Think about that. People being healed. So Pastor Dave, these events he's going to be doing at his ranch, everybody is just suddenly going to get healed. The glory is going to fall upon it. So what a time to be alive. But again, as Pastor Dave's been talking, and Andrew and I have been talking, when God intervenes, when the glory comes upon the earth, I pray people have listened to us, because the financial system, we've only said one thing: it's a total fraud. They create money out of thin air. And because money's created out of thin air, it really is valueless, even though you might believe. Again, this is a believe, because who's a great deceiver? Satan's deceived you to believe that it's money. But when the tables get flipped, we're going to watch the greatest move vertically in precious metals, gold, and boy, is silver going to go like a rocket. It's going to take off like a rocket, because, remember, Trump just recently talked about the Golden Dome. We may have referenced this before, but that Golden Dome, to make it, the technology, guess what you need to make the Golden Dome? Silver. If you don't understand, it's like when they made the first atomic bomb, understand that it was made with silver. They could not have made an atomic bomb without silver. So silver not only is a financial instrument like gold. No. Silver is military grade. Silver is that's why they're doing everything to not let silver go, because it is military grade technology that's hidden within silver, because it's the isotopes and the way it works. There's nothing like it. And right now, we're exposed. It works for cell phones. It works for solar panels. That's nothing. When the world finds out that to make anti-gravity, you need silver. To do the silver dome, to protect the United States, you need silver. Silver is going to go so off the charts, people will pay you whatever, because it's going to become a national treasure. In other words, you won't be able to get it anywhere. And that's, the prophecy of Kent Christmas says, for those who wait on the fence to see which side won, you're going to lose, because when this event goes down, silver's going to go so fast, so hard, and then it's going to be sold out so quickly that you just won't be able to get it anywhere. And if you do get it, like you talk to Andrew right now, you can call up Andrew and you can put some pretty big orders in, I'm sure, and it's still deliverable, meaning that you can receive it. So people say, when is it too late to buy silver? The answer is when you call Andrew and he says, sorry, I don't have any. Or I've got a little piece in my back safe here. I got one piece. Someone just dropped off a couple of pieces. But that's what happens that's what happens in bull markets. But we're not stepping into a bull market. No. We are stepping into the greatest bull market in human history. And the last thing to take off is silver. We've seen Bitcoin. It's now over 100,000. We've seen gold. It's over 3,000. And it's just warming up. And boy, when silver goes, that is what Barry Winch actually, it's interesting that he said this to you, and please confirm this, but Barry Winch said when silver takes out vertically, when it goes through $50, that starts the Jubilee.
Yes. He had
50-year Jubilee. $50, 50-year Jubilee. I find that I find that beautiful because only God would orchestrate something like that beautifully. And so take it from here, but expand upon the prophecy that Barry Winch had about $50 silver when it takes it out, and then Andrew go from here, talk about delivery and and receiving it, and how and if people want to get it, how easy it is, and also I know very important to reference because a lot of people have 401ks and IRAs, and they need to know that there's things that can be done.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Andrew about that. But first, though, is it's not just Barry, Julie, many. I think 4 or 5 prophetic voices, almost the same thing. And another term that they're using from the Lord is "great and terrible day of the Lord" that you've been referencing a long time, Bo. How this one-day event is going to be great for his chosen, but it's not going to be good for the evil. Julie also had the Federal Reserve, IRS would be proven as a scandal, would go away. But this silver, as you're talking about, take off. Since Barry has been talking about this, having prophetic words, we've had real intel sources reach out to Barry and I that were here in Texas and showed us what they're doing behind the scenes for this new economy. And it's amazing when the spiritual intel from God comes down and it matches the real intel that's out there. So God is bringing them both together for such a time as this. We'll turn it over to Andrew to talk about 401ks and IRAs and availability.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly enough, as high as gold and silver are right now in spot prices, silver and gold are readily available. So we're able to ship gold and silver within about 24 to 48 hours of cleared payment. So that means you send a wire transfer today, we send you a paid invoice tomorrow. In most cases, your order is going to ship tomorrow, the following day at the latest, which is great because, like Bo always points out, there comes that period where you wire us the funds or you send us a check. Now you no longer have the funds and you don't have the metals. So we're in the business of helping people sleep at night. So getting a quick delivery is just one of the many things that we do to make sure that you can sleep at night. The other thing is that with everything that's been going on with the tariffs, they're on 1 minute, they're getting lowered the next minute, they're being extended another minute. This is all part of a big plan that Donald Trump is doing to be able to get all of the other countries out there to bow down to us and make us the superpower that we are. And this is going to be a long process. This is something where having your stocks in retirement accounts is not going to help. You're not going to sleep well at night while we're going through this period. Maybe you already identify with that statement because there was 1 week where stocks were down about people's retirement accounts were down about 20% in like a week when the first talk of tariffs came out. So it's not a bad idea to kind of pull things back a little bit and maybe roll over a portion of your IRA, your 401k, your TSP account, or any other pension into a precious metals backed IRA. You can do this without it being a taxable event, and we were able to get these done in 7 to 10 days. We do all of the work for you. It really is just one scheduled phone call that doesn't take too long, where we actually walk you through setting up the account, and you have the account number at the end of that phone call. So it's really a great process. We've helped so many people, and I won't forget, like the last time I think I saw you, Pastor Dave, in North Carolina. We had a little chat. I remember we were talking about baseball for a while there, our predictions for this year's for this year's season, and while I was trying to get to you, like 6 different people pulled me aside and they said, "Andrew, I'm a client." And I go, "Oh, what's your name?" And they tell me, and I go, "Oh yes, I've seen your order. Thank you so much." And they've said, "No, thank you. This is something that I only heard about, and you guys have helped me get the education to make an educated decision so that I'm not making an emotional decision, because during these tough times, when we make emotional decisions, that's when we tend to make mistakes. So it's really important that you're able to learn how to do this and be comfortable with it on your time and not the time of a salesperson that just wants to get you to do a deal today. So it's, for me, I'm grateful for all of the business that we've done, and I would urge people, reach out to us right away, like before things get out of control again, because Bo mentioned there will be times when you can't find silver. It's true. I mean, I've seen it happen multiple times since 2011. What ends up happening is there are big runs on silver. It usually begins when the government sells out of silver eagles in a year. They've not done that for a few years, but it used to happen every year. And when that would happen, then people out there are trying to buy any silver they can get. There's literally coin dealers out there that are reaching into the corners of their safe and pulling out just oddball items like 80% Canadian silver dollars, Mexican 50 pesos, and all these different coins that you don't normally see. So it wouldn't take much for us to have a major shortage in silver. So it is important to take advantage while you can.
Well, you brought up another good point that we've been talking about for several years now, is when this event happens, you're going to have some scamsters come out of nowhere. And I just read something over the weekend, too, about some silver scam that some company did that was not real silver. And you got to go with the people that you trust. Bo, trust Andrew, Clay Clark, General Flynn, His Glory. We're the only ones that we've gone with you. So you got to go with the right trusted partner as well.
And just to that point, Pastor Dave, it's obviously not any industry out there is perfect. I mean, there's, we all drive cars. It's like there are car dealers out there that are not good. There's always going to be a few rotten apples in every batch. And it's just, I remember about 15 years ago, I was selling a lot of these proof silver eagle coins for retirement accounts. People loved them. And I found a guy that was willing to sell them to me for $2 a coin cheaper than everybody else in the industry. And the person that I normally bought them from said, hey, you haven't ordered from me for a little bit. And what's going on? And I told him, well, I'm thinking about switching to another company. I wanted to run down the inventory that I had first. And they said, well, what company are you thinking about switching to? I gave them the company name, and this is somebody that had been in the industry for a long time. And they said, oof, you're not gonna want to do that. And I go, well, can you tell me why I shouldn't? And they said, well, look, I don't want to say anything bad about another company, but just do this for me. Know who you're dealing with. And it's important to know who you're dealing with. And I just, it kind of spooked me, so I just kept buying from the same wholesaler. I never went with that person. It was like 10 years later that this person, the person I almost bought from, got thrown in jail for he created his own depository, which is one that I'd never heard of. And turns out that most of the metals weren't there. So at some point we got into some trouble. But he wasn't vouched for anybody that wasn't related to him. So for us, I mean, we've worked with General Flynn, who was the president's top advisor in matters of defense. We've all worked with Kash Patel, who is a current FBI director. And we all know Devin Nunes, who used to be in the House of Representatives here in California, which is his whole thing is investigations, and now is CEO of Truth Social. And also you guys, Pastor Dave, you reach a lot of people out there, and Bo, you as well. So if there is any sign of bad business, just the 5 names that I've mentioned, okay, at the bare minimum, would let you guys know that we're not good. So this isn't something that we take lightly, but it is important to realize that these things do happen out there, and that everybody watching this podcast right now has the benefit of dealing with companies, not just me, but all the companies that are advertising partners of both Bo and Pastor Dave, that they've been thoroughly vetted and vouched for.
Yeah.
Andrew and I, we get together, and Pastor Dave, we do these podcasts. We've already bought gold and silver. We have gold and silver, okay? So we don't do these for any other reason, specifically other than it's from our heart, to let you know that the way the world works, the Lord has revealed things to us, and specifically, I know the way the world works is it's a fraudulent money system. So I've already done what I need to do. I own precious metals. I have some cryptocurrencies, but I specifically, because of the ratios and what I've learned over the years, have put my family's financial position in silver. Why? Because I know what the Lord revealed to me what's coming. I've now positioned myself And because I've done that, and Pastor Dave has, and Andrew has, and those who listen to have, all we're doing is we're sitting waiting in a position of peace. I want to repeat that. We're sitting in a position of comfort and peace. There's no stress in our life. Whatever's going on in the world, God's going to work out, and all the details God's going to take care of, and all we have to do was position ourselves and wait upon the Lord. That's scripture, okay? So God's going to do something. The prophets have spoken. Before God moves upon the world, scripture says God first reveals his secrets to his servants, the prophets. How many prophets has Pastor Dave had on his show have speaking about finance, okay? We spoke about what's going to happen. You've been preparing, but the point is, if you don't have gold and silver, you really don't understand history, and you're unfortunately going to have some discomfort that's going to happen here very, very soon, because this event is going to go down very shortly here, and it's going to be a biblical shift in our world, because it is going to be a 24-hour window. The prophets have spoken, and it will be the great and terrible day. It's coming.
Yeah,
we just want you to be prepared. We want you to be prepared.
That's a great point, because I'm not in the stock market, and I feel a lot of stress off me not worrying about stocks going up and down when this is coming. I got it in silver. We'll be right back. Our breaks are pretty entertaining. All right, we're going to go back to that Bo was talking to me in the break. Bo, when you said it was on Shabbat, it dawned on me again what Barry said. He said right around Shabbat, God's big movement is coming.
Yeah, so if you go back to our prior podcast, you don't need to do it, but I'll summarize it here, what we've been saying. But based on calculations, it's very interesting, because when you go back to the year 2020, something very interesting happened on April 21st. April 21st of the year 2020, what we saw was probably the greatest financial anomaly in history, because why? You had oil. So we talked about the petrodollar. We talked about the dollar itself is backed by the petrodollar contract. But the petrodollar contract in the year 2020, it went to negative $38 a barrel. So we saw oil collapse to negative $38 a barrel on the 21st of April 2020. The Lord reveals something very interesting. So what I'm looking at is not the events, okay? So I'm simply going to do some math calculations, but these are biblical calculations pulled out of the Bible. So we know the numerics of 40 days and 40 nights, okay? So if you apply 40 days and 40 nights to April 21, 2020, what we end up getting is specifically May 31. 2020. On that day, the George Floyd riots occurred, and the next day, there's what we've talked about: Paris, London, Brazil, Argentina, Black Lives Matter. All the riots started, and basically peace is taken from the earth. In other words, all heck broke loose starting May 31, 2020. So why is that important? Well, because that day ties into what the Lord revealed with regards to a clock. And so when we look at the clock, it's called the midnight hour or the glory clock. My glory shall fill the earth, his glory, the ministry. So the glory clock specifically, so in an hour, there's 60 minutes. So when you look at when you read scripture, it says a day is about 1,000 years. What the Lord is showing you, that you can replace the word day with a year, with the word year. Just like on this, you can take the word minute and replace it with month. Okay, well, let's do that. So from the day oil collapsed to negative $38 a barrel, you run a 60-minute or a 60-month clock. 60 months takes you precisely to, again, April 21st of the year 2025. April 20th into the 21st, 2025. What do we have? The shaking. What happened there? The death of the Pope. Klaus Schwab resigns to the exact day. When we talked about this, all we said was watch something happen on the 21st, which ends up being Resurrection Sunday, the 20th, okay? So right on perfection, the numerics, biblical numerics worked out. This is biblical math. And so we also played the prophecy of Kim Clement. It said the spirit of Pythos will begin to be removed in America and then the world, but it begins on when? Resurrection. And what happened? The Pope is dead. This is Audience Hall. It's a serpent. So the spirit of Pythos is a serpent, begins to be removed. on that day. So the prophecy was fulfilled. I sent a video. If we want to play that video, it's a Kim Clement video. It's about a minute and a half video. They can cue it up and get it ready. But this takes us to this year. Okay, so remember, 60 months or 5 years, George Floyd riots began. The world changed. Peace is taken from the earth on May 31, 2020. Well, let's do something different. Let's now run the same calculation, 40 days and 40 nights from the death of the Pope. Guess what you get? May 31, 2025, this weekend.
Wow.
So, and then what? Yesterday, you've got Trump Jr. posting in reference to what it was actually May 31 is what he posted. Now, again, I don't know if something's going to happen, but what I'm saying, what the Lord revealed to me, He goes, go look at the calendar, because this year, the next morning, so Sunday morning, May 31 ends, Saturday, and Sunday is June 1, Shavuot. This is historic. So this is the Jewish feast. And then 7 days or 8 days later is Pentecost, which is a Christian holiday. Okay? But the point is, on God's clock, this is a feast date, people. This is huge. Feast dates is when God moves. Now, is God going to move on this date? I don't know. But God historically has moved on his feast dates. And what have we said? Okay, so we know September is going to be important too, because there's prophecies about September. We played, I think, on a prior podcast. But Pastor Dave just referenced a few minutes ago about the great and terrible day of the Lord. Okay? Well, haven't we been speaking about that for the past 6 months already?
Yep.
We've been speaking, maybe since last September, October, we've been talking about this, but that's the Joel 2 movement. The Joel 2 says the great and terrible day of the Lord. It says before it, you're going to get the sun turning dark, check mark, March 29th, and the blood moon. That happened on Purim, March 13th. So we have had the 2 prerequisites, and then next thing you know, what happened? The death of the Pope in April. So all we're waiting for now is the 2 prerequisites have been accomplished. Because before the great and terrible day, you get a blood moon and you get the sun turning dark. Those have happened. So all that's remaining is that suddenly moment. You wake up and suddenly everything changes. And it's going to be a 24-hour window where God intervenes. And this is so important because the God intervening is critical for the world, because my glory shall fill the earth. This is not a move of man. This is God stepping in for the world. He's stepping in to fulfill and restore the covenant made with the founding fathers. We've overturned Roe v. Wade. God is now with us. Who can stand against us? Nobody. And all it is we're now waiting for that moment in time, that 24-hour window where God steps in. When God steps in, the financial system will flip. Okay? Those who have been wise stewards and been listening to or following what at least Pastor Dave, myself, and Andrew are doing, if you hold precious metals, you're going to be blessed with beyond measure. Because what's going to happen? He's not going to make this a 20% increase on precious metals. Okay? God's going to multiply. First off, damages 7-fold immediately. That's going to be so quick. Then 30, 60, 100-fold. The numbers are going to be so extraordinary. They're going to be impossible numbers on silver. Impossible numbers on gold. But silver is going to go just crazy off the charts. And so the numbers, it's not even a point of referencing how high these numbers are going to go, because the silver is just going to become priceless. It's going to be, and because it's going to be priceless, it'll be unobtainable. You won't be able to get it. That's what's coming. And so I just want people to know that we did our job to tell you as stewards what is coming in the world financially. Whether you prepare or not prepare, this is where free will comes into play, and people can do, as they wish. But at least, all 3 of us have done our job to warn the world of what's coming. And Pastor Dave, he's out there furiously working, got a studio built, doing everything, bringing guests on all the time, and he's nothing but bringing out prophetic voices of what's coming. And historical, please read your Bible. It says very script, before God moves, he sends his prophets. He sends his prophets. They're here. The prophets are here. And honestly, it started with Kim Clement. It started with Kim Clement, and now, look where we're at now. Now there's many prophets speaking the same thing. So it's historic, and if when you have a few minutes, we can pop that video on to Kim Clement as well too. But it's just it's such a blessing to be here, with Andrew, who can literally provide precious metals in a click of a few buttons. I've dealt with dealers all over the world, not the world, but all over America. I've been doing this for 15 plus years, maybe almost getting to 20 years, and no one delivers quicker than Andrew. So, and there's the references Andrew has. Like, think about this. You're not calling a gold dealer up who you don't see who owns, like, you call up some gold dealers, you don't know who owns a company. It's just a company name. You don't know anybody in this company. Versus you call up, like, Andrew's right here for the past hour. Andrew's been here, and, for the past 3 years, his face is there. He's the face for the company, okay? So he's like, no one's hiding. And, and he goes on tour with the Reawakened American we were doing it, and he's on stage with General Flynn, Eric Trump. So the point I'm saying, and then lastly, silver and gold, it's complicated. Like if someone gives you a piece of silver, you're like, the first question you ask, and if you give anybody a piece of silver, the first thing they're going to say to you, is it real?
Yep.
That's the first question, because no one knows. Like, unless you know if you're getting it from a reputable dealer, you don't know, because some of the fakes are so good. That's the problem. So I'm just telling you to be careful. Don't go to work and have a living, have cash coming in, have finances coming in, and then try to save a penny or two and go to a dealer and then find out that you bought something that was silver plated, gold plated. Again, the first question when you give somebody a piece of silver, or they ask, hey, you want a piece of silver? The first question everyone always gives is, hey, is that real? Because very few people. You don't go to school. I know when I went to school, no one taught me about silver or gold. Andrew, expand upon that, because that is so true. There's no education on silver or gold in schools.
It's absolutely true. So the last generation that got any education on gold and silver, they didn't get it from schools. They got it from their parents. And Donald Trump falls into exactly that, because he's the child of somebody that lived through the Great Depression. So anybody that lived through the Great Depression or had to run from their country for their lives during World War II to come here to live so that they wouldn't be killed, those people understand the value of gold and silver. But the generations after that don't. Because for me, I'm born and raised in America. Things have always been great. I've never been worried about having to sleep in the street, because I've always pretty much been taken care of. We feel that the country has our back, but the reality is that other countries out there might be doing just as well as us, but they look at things differently. In Asia and in India, the best gift that you can give anybody there are gold and silver. It doesn't matter if they're bars or coins. Gold and silver are what they give each other for birthdays. It's what they give each other for weddings. And here we give each other things that we're never going to use again, like Taylor Swift albums or little Labubu dolls. It's like so whatever. Like they're really big on giving gifts that are going to be around for generation after generation. But there's good news. I feel that because of podcasts like this one, that there are younger people out there that are starting to see the value in gold and silver and get educated on it. In fact, I know it because I followed that Wall Street Bets group on Reddit for years and years now. They're the ones that did the short squeeze on some of the meme stocks a while back. After they did that, they got into crypto. And these are like 20-something-year-old people that are just learning to invest. They did a little bit in crypto. They made money there. Now they're hearing about gold and silver, specifically silver. So I follow it, and I see these messages that they send, and it'll say silver $33, and then it'll have the rocket going up emoji. And the younger people are starting to get it, and they're not necessarily buying it so that it goes up in value. They're buying it as insurance against their other investments, and they might have some crypto and they might have some stocks. But the thing is it skipped at least the knowledge of gold and silver and how it can help you skipped at least 2 generations here in America, but it didn't skip in other countries. So it is something that we should teach the young people, because this has been the currency of the entire world for thousands of years. If in biblical times, if someone was given a dollar bill, they wouldn't know what it was, nor would they care. So it was all about gold and silver, and they had equal value back then. Isn't that right, Bo?
Yeah, when you go back and study history, the charts of what I've looked at is for a short window, sometimes it was 1-to-1, but rarely. It was usually somewhere in the vicinity of 10. In some countries, it was nations, it was 4. So on average, somewhere between 4 to 1. So, but the ratio usually is 10 to 1 when you dig it out of the ground. This is the wild part. Andrew and I were joking about. Like, I've been watching precious metals for 15, 20 years now. This is the crazy time because on average, in a bull market, you'll see we've seen silver kind of go to a ratio of about 30 to 1, which is still what a total deal. But on average, it's around 60, 70, 80, usually in the 70s to 1. For the past few months now, it's got into, especially this year, it's got into the 100 to 1 ratio. That's insanity. Please, you have to understand that when I say that's crazy, because for all the years I've ever watched silver, you rarely, like on a crash, you might see it go to 120 to 1, but then it'll jump right out of there, and it will never sit in a three digits relative to gold. Right now, silver is 3 digits relative to gold, which means they are doing everything, including throwing the kitchen sink at silver in terms of the contracts to keep the price down. They're doing everything to hold the price down because there are people that are buying it up and then they're not releasing their contracts, and so they're doing everything to hold this price, and this is not going to last. When God intervenes, when we have, as a prophet has stated, that great and terrible day, that day will be several things. It's going to be great for the church because that's the day that silver breaks free. It's going to blow through $50. That's the day that Andrew, Pastor Dave, myself have said that. Not only Andrew, but every single gold dealer in North America and probably the world is going to shut their doors because they just don't know what the heck's going on. It's just literally, it's jumping $5 a minute. It's going to go probably double, triple in a single day, $60, $70 in a single day. And the dealers won't know what to do. They're like, what is going on? So they're just not going to sell anything. They're not going to buy anything. It's just going to go dark. It's just going to stop. Everything's just going to stop. And the prophecy is when this event goes down, the financial markets will lock up. I'm going to repeat. The prophecy is when this event happens, financial markets lock up. They go gridlock. They're just done. Everything just stops. And this is going to be tied in with a great and terrible day. And then it's going to be terrible because the truth comes out of what was going on. All kinds of truths are going to come out. And this is going to be horrible for those who are the enemies of God. So this is coming into a time point which is just going to be historic. And again, and that's when my glory shall fill the earth, Numbers 14:21. When everything shifts and the finances come in, the finances are for building the church, because the church is going to, the name of Jesus is going to go global, and I mean global, billions of souls, because a billion soul harvest. There's not a billion people in America. There's going to be a billion, several billion soul harvest, which means Jesus Christ's name is going to go all over the world with signs, miracles, and wonders. That's what's coming. But it's so important to understand when this event goes down, fear not, because it's going to be, this is the great and terrible. This is the day that's been set for 2,000 years. And people are going to be so freaked out that what just happened, they're going to say, is it going to happen again? Because it's going to be so scary and so glorious at the same time. It's going to be both. And it's going to be a time just of prayer for those who know what's coming and know what's happening. Actually, if you know what's happening because you've been listening, you're just going to be praying that day. And you're going to be on your knees praying and just glorifying God because he's stepping in for humanity. But at the same time, too, the enemies of God, this is going to be just devastating for them. And that's why the prophecy is going to be this summer, the summer of heat. When I say heat, it's both heats. It's going to be the hottest summer we've ever seen. There's a Kim Clement prophecy. I don't know if Pastor, if they have the video to play, but it's a summer of heat. So play the video, because the summer brings the greatest heat in humanity on the world in terms of temperatures, and also heat on the evil ones.
Let's play the video.
Today I will expose, I will reveal, for you have entered into a time and a season of undercover, where I will bring out from the covers the truth. For there have been too many lies, one lie after the other, covered in high national positions. There are two E's that I see. One E is the word erupt. The other is earthquake. A volcano as a sign. And then there will be another earthquake, says the Lord. Keep your eyes open, for this sign is to cause the earth to yield of its produce, that the great E may come forth rapidly. Summer reaches to spring and to summer. My sun will shine. Yet beneath the earth, there is a rage. Eruptions. Summer says, why choose they me? Why do the tornadoes, the hurricanes choose me? I am summer. I bring smiles. I bring sunshine. I bring warmth.
This year will be a cleansing year, and summer, oh summer, as my beloved prophet Kim said, this is that summer. Wait and see.
I am summer. I bring smiles. I bring sunshine. I bring warmth. Yet there is a tumultuous rendering that is coming. I stand to protect. Spring, but fall, you are rebelling. Or is it that possibly the Spirit of God will cause many to fall in fall? And I will start from the top. I have shaken the Democrats and will shake the Republicans even more. But remember, when these tremors and when these tumultuous moments happen, Summer says, I will take it so that the fall can do its work in America. Summer, take it. For thus says the Lord, I will prosper my people. I will prosper my people. And during the fall there shall be many that shall fall, and many that shall rise from the dust. For the summer shall bring forth much in the temperatures.
So this summer shall be the hottest by far. The heat will bring the natural storms, and my heat will bring the cleansing.
Strange July, strange July.
From creation to the birth of Jesus to the Declaration of Independence was divine calculations to the exact year. From the Declaration of Independence, 248 years, takes you to the year 2024, July. This right now is the year 248, which means that the year 248 ends when? Right there, it's in yellow, the July 3rd, 2025.
He kept saying July 3rd, July 3rd, July 3rd. I'm like, that's the day of the dismantling tour. And Robin Bullock kept saying, this is the closing of the book. This is the turning of the page. We are moving on from what has been. We're moving on from a season of war. And he said, like, this date is important. This date is important. This date is important. So July 4th, 2025, he says, marks the first day of the new chapter that we are heading into.
So we're stepping into a time of my glory shall fill the earth. Numbers 14:21. The glory brings miracles.
Hypnotic November and old Christmas, where winter shall say, and me, I will make them happy. For God says, I have chosen each season to manifest something. My will shall be done, and it shall come to pass.
This nation shall be cleansed like my land after a good rain. I am cleansing the USA and all of my world. My storm is coming through man, through arrest, indictments, drug bust of cartels, and tribunals and executions. It is all coming to a theater near you, right on your very own TV.
Absolutely amazing. You know, I was thinking about that when we went through there. But when we were talking about Basel 3, that actually starts July 1st and goes July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Ends on the 3rd.
Bingo.
Wow.
Can't make this stuff up.
No.
You know, there was one other big thing that happened since we've last been on together. So on May 16th, Moody's downgraded the United States credit rating. And this is the top three agencies that rate our credit are they Fitch, Standard & Poor's, and Moody's. Now all three of them have downgraded us. We no longer have the highest credit rating of any country, and the reason is that the interest on our 36 or $37 trillion deficit is about to surpass what we spend on defense funding. And they see that as a great risk. So everything we're talking about, the video you just played, everything we've been talking about this whole hour points to a reset. These are the things that happen before a reset. And I do believe we're going to see a reset on how we use money. It's going to change forever. How we spend money, how we accumulate it will change forever. So hopefully people are listening, because there's a great opportunity here to protect everything that you've worked for and be ahead of the curve. Eventually, everybody's going to know this and understand it, but it might be too late for some, but it's better to get in early than not at all.
Yeah,
Think about this. By listening to this podcast, you're ahead of the curve. God has spoken to you. You know the future. God's spoken through so many prophets on Pastor Dave's channel. You've listened to what we've said, and we've been dead on right for 3 years now. Everybody who's holding gold or silver, you're in a good positive position right now. Nothing wrong has been stated. You just listen to what the Lord is revealing through his servants, because he's preparing you, and you are blessed to be listening to this podcast right now.
And it's biblical. It is truly biblical. When we hear all these prophets talk about Joel 2, you go to your homework assignment, everybody watches today, go study Joel 2, because this event has not happened in human history or biblical history. It is the great and terrible day of the Lord. It is going to be great for his remnant. Why? Not for us to get rich like we've been saying for years. It's about the billion soul harvest. And it also says your sons and daughters will prophesy. That talks about what you started it with Billy Graham, going in doing revival, signs and wonders, the youth. Bo, you mentioned, or Andrew, you were talking about the youth getting into silver. The youth are going to get back into the spiritual movement. It's all connected for that great and terrible day of the Lord.
Well, the crazy part too is when I was in Texas with Pastor Dave, the Lord actually revealed to me the Billy Graham, and then he directly revealed to me the calculation, which I shared with you privately, on how his glory ties in with Billy Graham. The calculations are to the exact day. It's crazy, to his death, to his birth, and how Pastor Dave and his glory ministry ties in with this. This is awesome. It's just wild to be sitting and watching all these pieces come together.
My jaw dropped, because you had no idea the prophecy I had about Billy Graham was about 2016. Only my wife and my mom, I think, ever heard that. Long story short, the death of Billy Graham, at a certain period of time, his glory would take off like a rocket ship. And that would not be for my glory, it's his glory. And we'd be going into stadiums like the University of Michigan, signs and wonders, people healed like nothing's ever happened on the face of the earth. And then you show me the math, pointed right to 2025.
And your birthday tied in with this. This was crazy. I'm like, what?
Unbelievable.
So it's just such a blessing to be, the three of us to be here. But again, this is not about us. We're in a position where we're comfortable already. This is more about just having people hear the truth. And when you hear the truth and you know the truth, it will set you free. That's why we're doing this. This is about knowing and hearing the truth. Hearing the truth, therefore you know the truth, and therefore it sets you free. So with all that said, last few minutes here, Andrew, how do people find you? How do they reach you? How, getting precious metals, just go through all of it right now, real briefly, because I'm telling you, time is so limited.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to our website, go there and schedule a consultation. This isn't a high risk thing or a high pressure thing. We're not going to tell you that that the gold and silver that we're selling right now is running low and you're not going to be able to get it tomorrow. We always have something that we can offer you. Where right now, a lot of people have been diversifying with the His Glory gold and silver. So you can get the His Glory Lion. They're plentiful. We make them. Bo was talking earlier about make sure that you're getting authentic gold and silver. These had to be certified in order to be able to go into an IRA, which means that they have to be COMEX approved. So it's a little certification that goes on the back end as far as the minting goes. So it's a good place to start. You can do cash deals. We offer 90% silver. If you've never invested in gold and silver before, just fill out the form, put in your name, email address, phone number, and just as much as you can in the notes section, and we'll get back with you within about a day or two.
Yep. IRAs, 401ks, all of it. Protect your assets, because we are going to see the greatest transfer of wealth in human history. And every prophetic voice I talk to says it is this close. It's imminent. And you can just feel it in the Holy Spirit in the atmosphere too. We're close. But closing comments, Bo.
It's here. So talking to we're here.
Yep, and thanks, Pastor Dave, for touching base on the retirement accounts. We've helped thousands of people over the last 4 years diversify with their retirement accounts with gold and silver. As I mentioned earlier, it's a very, very easy process. Please reach out to us, find out exactly how it works. We'll give you time to be able to speak with your family, pray about it, and make sure that the decision's right for you. We've seen so many people come back after we've talked to them 2-3 times, and then on the 4th phone call, they end up doing it. So we'll give you the chance to make a good decision.
All right, that's it.
Yes, it's true. We do have this information within us, but how do we access it? Most of the information that we should have now at our fingertips, at our disposal, is blocked. It's blocked at the level of the cellular structure. It's blocked at the level of our neurology, of our nervous system. It's blocked at the level of our DNA. There are many, many filters that information has to pass through. Here, on the 3D level, and even higher information, it's always coming in. It's always there. We're always in touch with our higher selves, with our higher identities that exist in dimensions, frequency bands that are higher or even lower than this three-dimensional harmonic universe placement we're in. And just because I'll use some terms that are somewhat unfamiliar to you, well, the whole idea is they're going to be made more familiar. You're going to feel, and I know everybody has gotten back to me with the feedback, that the more they really pursue this information, this level of information, the more familiar it seems. Like light language, like light channeling of light language. Isn't it, have you ever noticed that it's beginning to sound more familiar to you? And that light language channelers, their channelings are beginning to sound very similar, sometimes almost the same. Well, that's because the first languages we're going to channel are the ones that are closest to us genetically. As our fourth, fifth, and sixth strands really begin to come into activation, they relate to fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional levels of our higher identity, levels of ourselves that are situated in higher dimensions and higher universes. All this stuff is going to be explained. I'll talk about later the programs that I offer. If you're interested, get in touch with me. Right now, I want to talk about where this information comes from. Now, in previous webinars and podcast interviews, I've talked about something called the Emerald Covenant. The Emerald Covenant goes back 950 billion years ago, and this I'll have to condense, where races that we call the Brennau, the Rishi, the founders races in our time matrix convened, however it is that pure beings of pure radiance, pure waveform convene, and they decided that life would be allowed to evolve cooperatively and co-creatively within our time matrix. And that original agreement was called the Emerald Covenant. It is at the bottom line what the Wizard of Oz is all about. You know, and it's about time, Sheila Suze, that I taught another workshop on the Wizard of Oz. It's been many, many years, and I'll tell you who doesn't like it. The International Wizard of Oz Club Society hates when I talk about this, you know, because they're not willing to come to the fact that L. Frank Baum himself, the author of the original Oz books, was a member of the Theosophical Society. Many years before he wrote The Wizard of Oz, he and his wife were initiated into the Ramayana sect of the Chicago Theosophical Society. I have original typewritten notes when he edited the Saturday Aberdeen Daily Pioneer, where he talks about past life, where he talks about theosophy. They can't avoid this. That if you read the Wizard of Oz, especially the original 14 Wizard of Oz books, 14 Stations of the Cross, 14 Rare Earth Elements, I can go on and on and on. I lost myself again. If you read the Wizard of Oz through a metaphysical, I mean a real hardcore metaphysical lens, a theosophical lens, there are secrets. There are deep, 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 deep secrets embedded in the Wizard of Oz. Well, this Emerald Covenant has been restated many times in our history. And we'll get more and more into that as time goes on. 248,000 years ago, during what was called the third seeding, we were given a gift. Now, this Emerald Covenant has been restated many times through our history, but 248,000 years ago, the density 4, which is dimensions 10, 11, and 12, we like to call the Christos. This is where avatars, Buddhas, bodhisattvas are situated. Density 4 and their biologies are what we still call biologies, matter densities, but they exist in field. They are liquid light. They are pre-matter hydroplasmic consciousness. Beautiful liquid light, hydroplasm. Density 4, Lyran Anuhazi. These are founders, elder races. These are feline upright walking bipedal feline hominids, and from densities 2 and 3, from the angelic and the archangelic, or soul and oversoul levels, the Syrian Azurites. When we talk about the Azurites, we're talking about the blues, the Syrian blues, Sirius B, on behalf of the orders of the Brennau. Now, these are fifth density beings, dimension 13, 14, and 15, above the avatar levels. It's kind of between the avatar, Buddha, Bodhisattvic levels and the ascended master levels that some of us call the yanas. On behalf of these orders, these founders' races, they presented a gift, a very special gift to the earth human guardian races, the races that honored the Emerald Covenant. This gift was a massive library of information detailing the history of our time matrix, 950 billion years, creation physics, the mechanics of operating what's called the interplanetary Templar, which is the set of stargates, internal stargates, personal Templar, or many know this set of stargates, black and white holes within us, as the inner Templar. The planet has a set of stargates that allow access to the interdimensional or intertime stargates. We're going to define it progressively, and especially if you join our groups, which I hope you would consider, we get into all this information in as much detail as you could possibly want. But realize our programs are technique oriented. The knowledge is very important. The knowledge is power. Read Isaiah, read Hosanna. My people suffer from lack of knowledge and the utilization of knowledge, the conversion from knowledge to wisdom. Well, this gift was a massive library. Again, 950 billion years. The true history of our 15-dimensional time matrix, ascension mechanics, creation physics, bio-spiritual healing techniques, and also the mechanics of operating the interplanetary Templar complex. Some people will call it the Holy Grail. There are many people among us that have these soul agreements. They're part of a living life network. Although most of us don't remember, we made these choices before we incarnated on Earth. Choices as to what life dramas that we would explore for our continued learning in the continued evolution of our souls. All learning in these earthly realms are ultimately endeavored